it's your girl Sherry Lynn, and you're watching Sweep the League on Alamo City Podcast Network.
Hey, this is George Iceman Gervin, and you're listening to Sweep the League.
What is going on, everybody? It is Sweep the League. Rudy Campos Jr. here, coming to you live from Sweep the League Studios. Basically, you can see my dirty Jordans in the back there. I'm trying to clean this area up to make it a little bit better, but definitely back again here on this Wednesday edition of Sweep the League. Coach Gio is running a little bit late. He should be here in a little bit. We'll get to some NFL talk today, as we've been doing lately. A lot of Spurs chatter going on. Of course, we've got Tim Gonzalez put up Blue Devils. Tar Heels still suck. Yeah, of course, man. You know, they always suck, according to always got to get Tim in here. And speaking of Tim, we'll get into quickly here. Let me pull it up here. But they also have a signee, the newest Duke Blue Devil, basically 7'2" guy from the NBA development league overseas is going to be in the Blue Devil uniform here pretty soon. Actually, he's going to be in the class with Cooper Flag, so pretty scary Duke Blue Devil team going into that year for the NCAA. But nonetheless, we'll get into some NBA talk as well. Pretenders, contenders, which teams that we feel are going to be there at the end. You know, I've called it before at the beginning of the season. I was saying it's going to be Boston and Denver. Obviously, Boston is running away with the Eastern Conference. Denver is going to battle. I don't really believe in Minnesota. To me, Mike Conley is the reason why Minnesota is doing really, really well. He's keeping that team gelled together. Kent's having a great year. Ant's having a fantastic year. But when you've got a veteran point guard like Mike Conley there, that helps out a whole lot. Gets everybody to gel right. Gobert's playing fantastic as well. So Minnesota's going to be there to contend, but I think Denver is still too deep. You've got Braun coming off the bench. They're just, when they're healthy, Denver is a tough out in the West. But nonetheless, I still say Boston is going to be your NBA champions this year. I know they didn't look good last night against Cavaliers. They blew a 21-point lead. But you know, it happens. It's the NBA. You're not going to win every game every night. You're going to have some hiccups here and there. So definitely I have Boston winning the title still this year. I think the West is going to beat up everybody throughout the playoff series. Me and Joe said you're going to probably see a lot of 6-game series in there as well. So it's going to be really, really tough to come out of the West. It's going to be a hard-fought battle. On the Eastern Conference, man, you can say Miami. You can give Cleveland a little bit of love as well. It's going to who turns it up, but I think in a 7-game series, you know, especially with Boston, Boston's really, really deep. Pritchard, Hauser, Horford coming off the bench. They're a really loaded team, Boston Celtics. I really like them in the East. We'll get into more of that talk later as well. Some NFL doings now. The tag season has already come. It's already here. We're seeing guys like Saquon Barkley not going to be tagged. A lot of running backs are going to be available. We'll talk into where running backs are possibly going. Also, that number 3 pick with New England, kind of interesting. Doing a little bit of research on it. Does it make sense for them to take a quarterback? I'll get into that talk as well here on Sweep the League. We're going to kick off here, Sweep the League, with a little bit of Spurs Cheeseman. Let me bring up the Cheeseman video so we can talk a little bit of why is everybody freaking out here?
Like I hear about the Spurs this y Spurs that y como que esto y esta, pero I never hear about the real Spurs chisme. Dime, por favor.
Gracias para todo Spurs Cheeseman girl for dropping that Spurs Cheeseman chime for us. But then this is the Cheeseman. I'm going to bring it up here right now. Let's show you the screen for the Cheeseman right here from Dusty Garza over on X. I always say Twitter, but on X. So Ramona Shelburne, ESPN's Ramona Shelburne. Victor's here and he wants to win. I don't know how patient he's going to be with the Spurs. I don't think he wants to sit here at the bottom of the lottery standings. Now, I've got issues with it because just like everybody else, I mean, the season definitely is not over. Still got 20 games, 20 plus games left in the season. It was going to be a grind this year. Again, I don't know what the national media people are trying to do, whether it be Ramona Shelburne, ESPN, even Draymond Green, I heard was talking a little bit, but the Spurs they were in a rebuild prior to Victor. They're still going to be a rebuild after drafting Victor. Does he fast forward the rebuild any quicker? Of course he does. I mean, you're talking about a player that is coming in and dominating the league as a rookie. When I'm going to say dominating, he's not MVP dominating, but he's making a difference for the team. Now you just got to build a team around him. It's kind of the same record being played over and over again. We're just kidding, repeat, rewind. It's the same thing, the same concept here. You have to build around Victor, and that's what they're planning to do in this offseason, whether it be through a couple of picks in the draft. You're going to go through some free agents here. We've got a good amount of free agents here. A lot of them are bird restricted free agents, a lot of them unrestricted, a couple of unrestricted, but you have a lot of restricted free agents out this class. 2025 is that year. You look at cap space, Spurs are going to have $24 million to play with this offseason. And that's saying if they were to keep a Zach Collins and a Devontae Graham, you can probably move both of those guys in the offseason. By moving both of those guys, you'll free up another $19 million. So that'll give you what it was 24. That'll give you another 40. That'll give you $43 million total when it comes to off-season cap space for the San Antonio Spurs, not to mention what they were going to do in the draft. Again, I've been saying it loud and clear that, yeah, Derek, appreciate it, man. We'll see you live on Friday. I've been mentioning it loud and clear that 2025 is the year. You've got the Hawks lottery pick, which, again, with Trae Young, all that whole situation, we have no idea what's going to go on there. He's probably going to end up being moved in the offseason. I know he said lately, hey, it's, I love Atlanta. I want to stay here. But they all say that. We've heard that anywhere from Kawhi Leonard. Everybody says that. They all say the right things at the right time. So I really don't think Trae will be there. Nonetheless, is DeJounte going to stay there? Nobody really knows on that fact either. So the Hawks are going to probably be a lottery team next year. Are they going to be the worst team in the league? It could very well possibly be that if they lose both DeJounte and Trae. Or if they lose Trae Young, period. I mean, I think just with DeJounte, they're going to be a lottery team. So you have that pick. It's unprotected. It could possibly lead you to number one, which in that draft alone, you're going to be looking at Cooper Flag. So pairing up a Cooper Flag with the Wembanyama, that's where 2025 is. It's circled on a lot of people's calendars. What I don't understand is the fact of ESPN, Ramona Shelburne, everybody there, and a lot of other national media people talking about how that Victor is going to get tired of losing, that this is we need to fast forward. The Spurs need to do everything they can to get a player or two this offseason in order to help Victor. Why the rush is my whole point. I get you want to win now. I get Victor wants to win now. Every player wants to win now. You think Cade Cunningham is in Detroit thinking, well, there's always next year. Well, there's always next year. BS. The guy wants to win now. If he had the opportunity, Cade would go out and go get any and every player he could to help the Detroit Pistons win. They're on the right path. They're very competitive lately. Molly Williams doesn't have them on the right path. They're playing competitive basketball, but it takes a little bit of time. Oklahoma City did not get built overnight. It took a little bit of time. A player like Victor understands. He's coming into the league. He's getting his feet wet. He understands that it's going to be tough. It's tough sledding to make it in this league and to win and be successful right away. I mean, people hitting the panic button at this point makes zero sense to me. There's no reason to panic when it comes to Victor Wembanyama. You have him as a rookie this year. You have his rights, his contract. He's got a 4-year deal. The Spurs have team options. It's not like Victor's going to go anywhere, and it's not like the Spurs are going to sit back and do nothing. They understand. They understand completely that they've got to build around Victor. They are going to build around Victor. You can't expect them to go make all these trades. Go out, Trae Young's available. Trae Young's available. Why aren't we getting Trae Young? Oh my God, you're not doing anything. Quit freaking out. Every day you log into social media, it's the same stuff. It's the, oh my God, we lost again. Victor's pissed off. Victor doesn't want to be here. How much more losing do we have to go before he wants to leave? Every day it's the same thing. And every day the house is on fire. The forest is burning. Everything like that. It's patience, people. It's patience. You've got to be patient. There was a time where the Spurs were playoff bound every year, but never title contenders. You know how frustrating that is? It's very frustrating to see your favorite team in the playoffs getting bounced every year, sometimes having the best record in the league and getting bounced every year. There's no second place in the NBA. It's champion or bust every single year for every single team. You've got to put the right players around your franchise guy, and he will be here for the entirety of his franchise. He will be a franchise player. He'll be here for the entirety. Don't worry about the losses. You don't think Pop's not in his ear saying, hey, it's another loss. It's another loss. You know, you think Pop's in his ear telling him, kind of like these freshmen in college where, you know what? It's probably best if you go. Your talents are outweighing us here. You probably are better somewhere else. No, man. It's not like that. It's not like that at all. Victor's here for the long haul. Victor understands that it takes time to rebuild. It takes time to happen. And will they be a playoff team next year? Probably not. Will they be a play-in team next year? That's to be determined. It depends on what happens in the offseason. Now, if they do nothing in the offseason, you may have a little bit of complaints there. They should be doing something. I agree with everybody on that in the offseason. But to see people complaining and worrying, and I'm going to use the word bitching because they're not winning right now. People, you're what, 50, 60 games into the season? It's one season. It's the first season. What did you expect to happen? Everyone that's complaining was expecting this team to be a play-in team at minimum. And it wasn't like that. The team was not a play-in team beforehand. And just because you drafted Victor wasn't going to add another additional 15 wins or whatever it's going to take to get into the play-in game. It wasn't going to happen because we knew what we had on the roster already. Victor wasn't going to come in and make this team that much better to where you get him into the play-in game. It's going to take time. Now you've got Victor here. You see how he is. You see his potential. You know, sky's the limit for Victor. Now in the offseason, you start putting all the building blocks together. I've made the comparison so many times on Locked On Spurs. I've made the comparison on this show so many times. You are building a house. You pour the foundation. The foundation is poured. That is Victor Wembanyama. The foundation is there. Now you have to start putting up the lumber. You got to start building on that foundation. Go and get players that fit. Out of all the players on this roster, how many actually fit on this roster that can play next to Victor? That is the question. There's no more freaking out. There's no more having Ramona, say, well, he doesn't want to be at the bottom of the lottery. You know what, Victor? You're going to be at the bottom of the lottery one more year. One more year, and this will be this year. Next year, you're going to probably be lottery bound, but depending on what they do in the offseason, you may not be a bad team. You might be a play-in team. But then again, if you are a lottery-bound team again, who cares? It would probably be Atlanta's lottery pick anyway. The Spurs will probably have a late lottery or, like mentioned, possibly, mid-first round of their own. What a player wants to see is not necessarily we're title contenders right now. Every player wants that. But deep down inside, they want to see improvement. And that's where I think Victor stands with everything. Yeah, he's pissed off on the court. Nobody wants to lose. He wants to see what kind of changes will be made in the offseason. He's not freaking out right now. He understands. He understands that there's nowhere to go but up for the San Antonio Spurs. There's no panicking in Victor. There's no panicking in the organization. The only panic is because of the national media wants what? They want to paint Victor as the new face of the franchise, the new face of the NBA, mind you. LeBron James is on his last leg. You don't want to put all your eggs into the Giannis Antetokounmpo basket. The Luka Doncic basket, okay, maybe. Guys like Steph Curry, faces of the NBA, LeBron James. A lot of those guys are at the tail end of their career. They need a new face, and that is Victor Wembanyama right now. You also have guys like Chet Holmgren that are going to, be alongside Victor for the run. The NBA markets, the NBA media, the national media, they want Victor in a better place. Let's be honest. You sell more merch. You sell, more advertising. You sell a lot more if Victor is in New York, if Victor is in LA. Hell, if you get a franchise in Vegas, where do you think they want Victor? In Vegas. They're trying to scare you Spurs fans into believing that Victor needs to win now, so that way if he doesn't, he can leave. Don't let him scare you. Don't let him fool you. You know what this is? It's what all you kids out there, and I haven't used that phrase in a while, but it's what all you kids out there call clickbait. This is clickbait. This is the national bullshit that people put out to show, hey, Victor's pissed off. If they don't win soon, he's going to want to leave. Find that very hard to believe because Victor just got here. He just got here. And he knows deep down that a lot of changes are going to be made. And they're going to build around him. Victor right now is not Kawhi Leonard. And even at that, we will never know what Kawhi Leonard went through in San Antonio. We don't know the behind the scenes details. So for us to say, well, this could be another Kawhi Leonard situation, how do you determine that? Because he's not winning? No, you can't determine that at all. We really, really cannot determine that at all right now. We have Tim Gonzalez. What happens if Spurs land young this offseason? How about Spurs get Cade and from the Pistons? I mean, I doubt that Cade will leave Detroit. They're going to build around Cade, but I mean, yeah, it's far-fetched. Locked on Spurs, do you think Wembanyama will demand a trade out of San Antonio during his extension or decline it? So, again, we're fast-forwarding way too far into the future for this. And I'm willing to bet that if it gets any worse, as in you're just lottery bound with a player like Victor Wembanyama, then I really feel, okay, maybe he will ask for a trade. Maybe he will want out at one point. But we have yet to give him, and it's, you know what? It's exactly like the Justin Fields situation in Chicago. Everybody panics. Everybody says, get rid of Justin Fields. He's terrible. He's not going to help this franchise win whatsoever. Not the case. I come back at you and say, who have you put around Justin Fields? Who have you given him to succeed? Who have you given him to help him, progress in this league? Well, you gave him DJ Moore. You saw the way he played last year when he was playing and he was healthy. That Chicago Bears team looked good on the offensive side. Imagine if you give him weapons to make it even better for him. Same thing with Victor here. I mean, we haven't even scratched the entire season of what we're seeing with Victor yet. We're getting our first glimpse of him. The league is in love with him. Local media, national media, everybody's in love with him. Everybody has one common ground. They want him to succeed. Everybody wants Victor to succeed. Do you all feel that the Spurs are the only people out there that don't want to see Victor succeed? That's BS. They want him to succeed. And they will do everything they can to get him to succeed. Do you think they're going to treat him any different than they did David Robinson, than they did George, than they did Tim Duncan? They did all that they could to help these guys succeed. And sure enough, they did. All three are NBA legends, Hall of Famers, all-time top 50 players in the NBA history. The organization does right by their players. They're going to do right by Victor. So to hear people say that it's panicking time, it's panic time, and we're panicking because Victor's not winning, give him a break. Give me a break. Give everybody a break. For those of y'all that really feel the sky is falling, it's not falling. It's not falling at all. So there's no reason to think that Victor will ever leave. I mean, unless it comes out, which I know it won't come out, and it's not going to come out anytime soon. The guy is under contract with the Spurs, and it's team options. It's not player options. It's team options. Victor is not leaving. Tony, Tim, and Dave. San Antonio is the perfect place for Victor. It really is. Victor wants to be here. The Spurs are going to do everything they can to help Victor succeed. I strongly, firmly believe that. So for everybody listening to the national media, to Ramona Shelbourne, to anybody out there, they know just as much as you know. And that's that we don't know anything right now. All we know is that we've got a great player in Victor Wembanyama. Enjoy the ride. I said at the beginning of the season, it's going to be a rough ride. Don't expect them to make the playoffs. Don't expect them to even compete in the play-in game. It's going to be a rough season. It's another lottery season. I said at the beginning of the season, I will say it again. It's going to be a rough season for the rest of the way. They have improved. They've beaten two of the top teams in the NBA with Indiana and Oklahoma City. They did lose to a Rockets team. Alperen Sengun had a career night, but it's happening. It's a roller coaster ride. It's a roller coaster season. All we have to do is enjoy the ride for now. It'll get better. It'll get better. You just got to be patient. You definitely got to be patient. And on this, before I go to commercial break, should the San Antonio Spurs tank for flag next season? No need to. I think Atlanta would do that for them. As long as the Spurs keep the Atlanta Hawks pick, which is unprotected, the Hawks will tank for the Spurs because I don't think they're going to have any type of player left in them to make them competitive. I believe Trey's gone, and even if it's just DeJounte, he's not enough to keep Atlanta afloat in the Eastern Conference or even in the lottery standings. I think they're going to be really one of the worst teams in the league next year, depending on what they do in the offseason. So, yeah, I don't think the Spurs have to tank for flag. I think Atlanta will do that for them. Victor will leave once his rookie contract is up. I seriously doubt that. John, you're coming in with the Victor will leave once his rookie contract is up. You haven't given the Spurs organization any opportunity to make moves in an offseason. You're assuming this and basing this off of the first 50-plus games of his career and them not having a winning record. There's no reason to think that he would want to leave after his rookie contract without seeing what they do in the offseason. Keep in mind, man, it's only 50-plus games so far. We haven't gone an offseason with Victor yet. Give him 2 off seasons. If they don't have anything done in 2 off seasons, then by all means, let's talk about him leaving after his rookie contract. Because then you know the organization is going to fail him. If you give him 2 off seasons, that's what I'm asking you. I'm asking for Spurs fans here. 2 off seasons. Give him 2 off seasons. This is Sweep the League. Rudy Campos Jr. Seeing if Coach Gio will jump on. If not, Derek Gervin will be back on Friday. Go to a quick commercial break. Rudy Campos Jr. Sweep the League, all part of the Alamo City Podcast Network. Go to YouTube, search Alamo City Podcast Network. Like, subscribe, share the stream out. We're trying to get to 1,000 subscribers. We're getting close to there. Do that right now. Just a quick commercial break from Locked On Spurs.
Locked On Spurs is your daily Spurs podcast, hosted by Jeff Garcia, the lead Spurs writer for Ken's 5 San Antonio. Jeff has a healthy plethora of guests all the time on the Locked On Spurs podcast. You can also follow Jeff on Threads at Jeff G Ken's 5 SA. You can also follow Jeff on Twitter at Jeff G Spurs Zone. So make sure you go ahead and give Jeff a follow not only on Threads and Twitter, but also on YouTube at youtube.com/@Locked On Spurs. This is where you're going to be able to find the replay of the Locked On Spurs podcast. Make sure to like, subscribe, and share.
Yeah, definitely go like, subscribe, and share to Locked On Spurs, all part of the Locked On Network on YouTube. Jeff Garcia does a fantastic job. Good buddy of mine. We're going to try to get Jeff in here maybe tomorrow. I'll see if we can come in tomorrow. If not, we'll try to get him in here for next week. Definitely want to talk some Spurs with Jeff. We got a lot of Spurs talk going on, so the best follow, the best Spurs guy in the business, that is Jeff Garcia at Jeff G Spurs Zone on X, not the Twitter, on X. So make those Wemby and flag shirts. Yeah, the Victory flag is what I remember saying that we were going to do for the T-shirt. So thanks for reminding me, Tim, on that as well. Again, you got to give these guys an off season, man. Give them an off season. You cannot think that Victor's going to leave because of 50-plus games and them being lottery bound. I mean, for God's sakes, they're not even the worst team in the league. I mean, Washington and Detroit are worse than the Spurs. So you can find positives in every negative. It's not a great season by all means. It's a very tough and trying season, but there's no reason to believe he's going to leave after 50 plus games. He's wanting to leave already. I mean, good God, there's more important things to worry about in the world than whether Victor is leaving right now, especially in sports world. I mean, you got to see what they do in the offseason. Like I said, you've got $24 million for the Spurs already in cap space this offseason. Make a move, get rid of a Devontae Graham and Zach Collins. That frees up another 19, gives you $43 million. You can easily go sign a player. I mean, we'll bring up some of the potential free agents right now. Let me get that free agents list here. Let me share the list. So, I mean, potential free agents. You're talking about, let's see, John's in here. Look, they said Kawhi wanted out. No one believed it, and all the rumors were true. At a point, yes, Kawhi did want out. At a point, but we don't have any idea what went on behind the scenes with Kawhi. Nobody really knows. Nobody knew if there was more to the story behind the scenes. No, I really don't know. Nobody else knows. I don't think we'll ever find out until ESPN decides to do a 30 by 30 type thing, for Kawhi Leonard. Did Sengun give the blueprint on how to handle Wembanyama? It's been there all along, Jeff. It really has. I mean, young, shorter, athletic guys are going to probably have some success against Victor. Sengun just had a very good night, a very, very good night. But, it's backing down Victor. We've seen it in some of the video from overseas as well. You've had players just backing down Victor, being physical with him. And that's kind of the blueprint. Just be physical with Victor. And that's something that he's going to work on. He's going to improve 100% on. I especially think in the offseason. I think you and I have talked about, Derek and I have talked about the fact that if he wants to do anything, get some working with Akeem Olajuwon. That would add a whole lot more for Victor. And then on the defensive side, I mean, you can obviously work with Dream on the defensive side, but knowing he's got two of the best defenders in NBA history with David Robinson and Tim Duncan right in his backyard. I mean, an offseason with those two guys on the defensive side, being able to square up a little bit when he's got these more physical players, Maala and Embiid, probably a Joker, then Sengun, who was able to back him down a little bit too. It's going to help him in the offseason more. He's getting his feet wet. This is a season of getting your feet wet. And Sengun did a really good job. He had a really good night against Victor, like I said, career night. But again, it's something that we may see happen from time to time. I don't expect it to happen in every single game. Just overall good night by Sengun. But, I mean, potential free agents here, 2024 NBA free agents. Again, a lot of these guys have their bird rights, and they can be matched. I mean, you've got guys like Klay Thompson, Tobias Harris, James Harden, Pascal Siakam. Kyle Lowry is the only one that has non-bird rights, as well as Malik Beasley. Those are two guys I really don't see anybody going after. But, I mean, you've got guys here that could potentially help, not right away, not going to make you a title contending team, but can make you a contending team. You say you want to maybe shred a couple of contracts, maybe trade a couple of guys. If the Spurs really wanted to go match for match, I mean, you got Pascal Siakam out there. Even a DeMar DeRozan, you can try going back after DeMar DeRozan. I think his game fits with Victor a whole lot better. Klay Thompson is going to be one that's going to come in very inexpensive. He's been mentioned a lot on this show. Klay Thompson playing alongside Victor Wembanyama. That would open up Klay a whole lot. Allow Victor to create, have Klay kind of remember those days of camping out on the side for Jaren Jackson, Bruce Bowen, kind of just camping out there, waiting for that pass to get to them, taking the shot. That's something I definitely see a Klay Thompson doing for San Antonio. You've got guys like Tobias Harris who can come in, score, kind of do the little things for you. Tobias Harris is another guy that's very, very, very undervalued. I believe if he's on the right team, definitely is one guy that would help the San Antonio Spurs. But this is where I say it's 2025, and I've been saying 2025 for a while, because if we update the list and we go to 2025, this is the list that you're looking at. Again, you've got bird rights on a lot of these guys, so their teams can match pretty much to whatever they want. They can go above and beyond the cap space, but you've got the likes of LeBron James, obviously, Paul George, Drew Holiday, Jamal Murray. Brandon Ingram is a very, very, very head-scratching one for me, because if he decides that he wants to leave New Orleans, Brandon Ingram alongside Wemby, and then again, if you've got that first pick from Atlanta and they get number one, you're talking about a front court of Wemby, Cooper Flag, and Brandon Ingram. That's pretty scary for a lot of people. Keep going down the list. OG Anunoby, you have the potential of maybe even getting, I mean, I don't want to say Chris Paul, but you got the thing to remember too is not only that you've got this type of free agent class with possibilities there. Let's go fast forward to that future. All contracts coming off the board for the San Antonio Spurs, and you don't really re-up anybody or you sign them to a team-friendly deal, you're looking at potentially $73 million in cap space in 2025. So that's where that comes into play. You can go out and probably get a Brandon Ingram and, somebody else. I mean, hell, if you wanted to overpay for a Jamal Murray and a Brandon Ingram, you technically could because you still have Victor under his rookie contract. You've got so much potential there. Plus, if you were lucky enough to get Atlanta was getting, and they get the number one pick, that 2025 class outside of Cooper Flag is still pretty stout. That draft class, if the guys come out like they're potentially supposed to come out, that draft class is pretty damn good. So you'll have another young player that's going to be an impact type player. They're going to come in. They're going to come in on a rookie contract. So 2025, people, I'm screaming it, and I've been screaming it for a while. That's potentially where you want to go, especially with all that cap space that the Spurs are going to have in 2025. Do you expect Sabonis to do the same tomorrow versus Wembanyama? I expect Sabonis to really attempt to. He could have the same success, but I think the coach staff will probably have Victor a little bit more ready when it comes to Sabonis going off of what Sengun was able to manhandle Victor. And I think he's manhandled very loosely. It wasn't really manhandle. He just, like I said, he had a really, really good night against Victor Wembanyama. The Tim Gonzalez go get Klay definitely got. I mean, Klay Thompson's the one guy that I really have circled in this offseason coming up. He's not going to cost the Spurs a whole lot. So definitely Klay. It's not about who the Spurs bring in. It's about these kids don't like San Antonio. They think it's boring. And the biggest thing, Pop. No one likes Pop because he is a real coach. He is a real coach. And I know we've talked about it plenty of times. You always have these players, John, that say, hey, I want to play in San Antonio. I love Pop. I would love to play for Pop. Those are the key words. Is I would love to play for Pop. It's never, I would love to go to San Antonio and play for Pop. You never hear any star say, I want to go to San Antonio and play for Pop. It's always, I would love to play for Pop. I would love to play for Pop. Pop's a great coach. Pop's my guy. I'd love to play for him. Never in those statements have you ever heard the word San Antonio. And that's where a lot of people tend to think, oh, man, LeBron says he loves to play for Pop. He wants to come to San Antonio. Never once did he mention San Antonio. I want to play for Pop. Whether I want to play for Pop in the Olympics or, hey, you know what? We fired so-and-so. Let's get Pop here. We can get Pop. Oh, great. I'll play for Pop here. It's never, I want to play for Pop in San Antonio. It's always, I just want to play for Pop. So, yeah, I do get that he's a real coach. A lot of people don't really like his coaching style. I mean, he is an old school coach. So, it's a new era of basketball. A lot of people don't want to play. Derek's in here, definitely. Tobias's dad. He was with Tobias's dad last weekend over in Detroit for the honoring of George Gervin, his brother, as well as Derek Gervin. Tobias in San Antonio, it's a possibility, I think. Tobias in San Antonio is a very good possibility. I don't think Tobias would command a huge salary. So, again, Klay Thompson, Tobias Harris, those are the two guys that I have circled as far as signing in the offseason this coming summer. One of those guys can potentially add more wins to your team overall. Do they fit with the current roster? You still got to make a lot of changes to the current roster. There's going to be a lot of changes that happen to the current roster. So, I mean, I expect them to fully do an entire overhaul this summer with a lot of these guys. One guy in particular, I think Keldon Johnson might be on his way out. He's got a pretty big contract, but you've got a lot of teams out there that could use Keldon. He could potentially be a starter. I don't want to see him go. I love his athleticism. I love his, I just love the energy that he brings to the San Antonio Spurs, but also business is business. And when you're a business, you have to make the best decision for the team. And I think that would probably end up being ones is Keldon probably being moved in the offseason. At Locked On Spurs, how scary that lineup: Wemby, Flag, Klay, Ingram, Young. I mean, that's a lot there, Tim. that's a lot. I think if you're getting a Trae Young this offseason, you're probably not going to have enough money to go and sign a Brandon Ingram, but it could be potentially you could possibly do that. That could definitely happen. That would be a dream team scenario for the San Antonio Spurs. I don't know what their bench would look like because you're probably going to have to remember back in the Miami Heat days when they had LeBron, Dwayne Wade, and Bosh, probably going to have to get some guys to take some very low contracts and very minimal salaries to come play for the San Antonio Spurs if something like that was to happen. It says Locked On Spurs, but isn't that skipping steps pretty sarcastically? Yeah, it's the whole skipping steps things, man. You want to skip steps, but then let's turn it around, Jeff. Skipping steps. Is it considered skipping steps if you have guys that want to come play for Victor? I mean, you're not approaching them. You're not, you're contacting them saying, hey, how would you like to be in San Antonio? I mean, there's really not many ways you can consider that skipping steps if you've got players that want to play for Wembanyama, but you got to use the money somewhere. I mean, especially in 2025, if you have potentially $73, almost $80 million in cap space, which we don't know what the number is going to be going into that offseason, but basing it off of next year's 141, they're sitting at 73. I mean, that's, 70-something million, 73 million roughly that you'll be able to play with going into next offseason. So you got to use it. You got to pay players somewhere. I don't think they're going to play any of the current guys. I don't think they're going to pay any of the current guys, max deals right now outside of Wembanyama. If the Spurs cannot get a Marcus Morris to play here, how can you get real all-stars to come here? There's been bad blood with Marcus Morris beforehand, John. It's not that they don't want him to play here. It's also about the fit. I mean, Marcus Morris almost reminds you of like a Cameron Payne. Got traded to San Antonio, didn't want to be here. They weren't going to make him play here in San Antonio. As much sense as it would have made to have Marcus Payne, Cameron Payne. I mean, as much as Cameron Payne wanted to be here, didn't want to be. They were going to make him play here. Let's just be honest. They traded for him. It was to make the numbers work. Same thing with Marcus Morris. I mean, he wasn't going to want to play here. He didn't want to play here. He didn't want to be here. So that's why he ended up moving on. There's no way that you can compare the Marcus Morris thing to anything that we're talking about as far as anybody wanting to play here. We can get all-stars. You can get free agents. Yeah, they might have to come through a trade, but you can make it happen. There's a lot of stuff that's going to happen in the offseason for the San Antonio Spurs to make it work all together. This is Sweep the Leg. Rudy Campos Jr. here, coming to you every single day, Monday through Friday, 2 to 3:30. Coach J will probably be back on Friday, if not tomorrow. Derek Irvin will be back on Friday. So any questions that you guys have for Derek, just drop them in the comments. We'll definitely get to Derek on some of those. We're going to open up the vault on Friday as well. Again, this is Sweep the League. Go to another commercial break here. Rudy Campos Jr., all part of the Alamo City Podcast Network. Go to YouTube, search Alamo City Podcast Network. Like, subscribe, and share. This is Sweep the League. Rudy Campos Jr.
MCS General Contracting, more than 30 years of combined experience in concrete placement. They are the best in the business. Honest pricing, high quality work. They get going on house foundations, driveways, concrete patio decks. If you want to extend the deck, extend the driveway. If you're a business and you need to put together a slab, a parking lot, or other concrete placement services or sidewalks, reach out to MCS General Contracting at 210-774-9155. They're confident in their skills, so give Chris Leha over at MCS General Contracting a call at 210-774-9155. And thank you for being a sponsor of this show.
Appreciate it, Chris Leha, for being a sponsor here on the Alamo City Podcast Network. Definitely has the best decks in the business, MCS General Contracting. Contact them for any and everything that you would need done to your home. That is MCS General Contracting. So, again, I see a lot of people in here about the Spurs, and I totally get that. Excuse me there. So Derek Irvin's in here. It says many guys don't come because they think the nightlife is not up to par. Guys who think basketball will come first. You're starting 24-12. Yeah. If you want to win, you definitely want to come here. You got the player to build around with Victor. You've seen what he does on the court. You see what he can add to a lot of people's games. He can make a lot of players better, and that's the most important thing. Cameron said of Young, how about Kyle Lowry in the sign-up? He doesn't need to put up big numbers. Kyle Lowry it's sneaky good, I think, if you were to get a Kyle Lowry, but it's got to be on a low end contract here. It's got to be. Spurs are in need of a point guard. If you don't get Trae Young, their Spurs definitely are in need of a point guard. But it's rough because you're not going to get a whole lot of Kyle Lowry. Like I said, you don't need a whole lot with Victor here. It's kind of one of those things. If you're going to get a Kyle Lowry, you're hoping to go and get another player somewhere, and not even necessarily all-star caliber, just a star in the league. That's where you come into play for, if you get a Trae Young, I mean, definitely a Kyle Lowry, Trae Young backcourt. You can leave Trae off the ball, coming off screens, coming off, a screen off of Victor. You have two players at row. Trae's a great passer. Bounce pass to Victor Wembanyama makes life easier for him as well. You got a lot of things you can do if you get a backcourt of like a Kyle Lowry and a Trae Young. That would definitely be something to keep an eye out. There's a lot of different things that you can do for the San Antonio Spurs in the offseason. So we're going to move on here a little bit here. We got a little bit of time left. We're going to talk some NFL football for you guys out there. Moving away from Spurs talk, we're going to bring up some prospects lists here. So obviously the combine is over and done with, and don't buy into a whole lot of the combine stuff. I really don't buy into a whole lot of it at all. But you still have Caleb Williams number one on a lot of these rankings. Again, everybody knows I'm not a big Caleb Williams fan. I think the Bears are definitely making a mistake. I'm going to beat a dead horse. It's a mistake to trade Justin Fields. You should try and build around Justin Fields. You have the perfect opportunity to do that right now. So I'm going to say that I was probably 60-40, 70-30 on the Bears keeping Justin Fields. Now I am legit probably 40-60 that they're going to draft. They're going to get rid of Fields. In other words, 60% they're going to draft Caleb Williams. I don't buy that. I don't like that at all. But from what I'm understanding, it looks like Justin might be on his way out in Chicago. It could be smokescreen. It could be all smoky mirrors. We have no idea. But as of right now, the way Caleb was acting at the combine, the way he presented himself, as Derek mentioned too, he was a diva at the combine. Kind of just had the feeling that he was going to go number one, whether it's to the Bears or a team that's already inquiring about trading up to number one. We'll have to find out. We really don't know right now. But sitting at number 3 is the New England Patriots. Now, I know the Mac Jones era in New England is over. It's definitely over. But does that mean you need to go out and get a quarterback right away? Some may say, actually, majority would say yes. Some may say no. I'm on the side of no. And I'm looking at it in the aspects of this. You're sitting at number 3. Chances are 1 and 2 are going to be quarterbacks, whether it be Caleb and Drake or Caleb and Jaden or even Drake and Jaden. Either way, of those 2 first picks, both are going to be quarterbacks. You come to number 3 with New England. You need a quarterback. But New England has a second-round pick, and it's got pretty decent. It's like the 3rd pick in the 2nd round. You're still going to have a quarterback there. You still may have the potential of getting a Bo Nix, a Michael Penix. You can wait a little bit later, get a Michael Pratt. You still have a lot of potential quarterbacks there that you can bring in through the draft. And also another type of idea to keep in mind is don't draft a quarterback. I say go get a receiver at 3. Go and get a wide receiver. Why? Your wide receivers sucked last year. You need a playmaker on the outside for any quarterback that you can get. Needless to say, it may not be a rookie, but with a guy like Russell Wilson out there who's going to get paid generously by the Denver Broncos after being released, you have the potential, because I don't think he's not going to get a whole lot of teams wanting his services, surprisingly. I think Kirk Cousins goes to Atlanta. Minnesota is now linked to Trey Lance, of all people, but they are kind of linked to Trey Lance. Kirk Cousins, I believe, does go to Minnesota. Justin Fields, if he's traded, I think the potential of him going to Pittsburgh is pretty good. Not only that, Justin could go possibly to a Washington, maybe. I mean, I don't know where he go. He may even want to go. He may even go to Minnesota. It's possible. But with Russell Wilson out there, the potential that I see for New England to say, hey, we will take that chance with Russell. Go and draft a quarterback later in this draft. And go at number 3 and get you a Marvin Harrison Jr. Maybe trade a little bit down, get you a Malik Neighbors, a Kean Coleman. You go get a playmaker first. At number 3, you can go get an MHG, a Marvin Harrison Jr. That gives you your playmaker. That entices any free agent quarterback out there, a Russell Wilson, possibly. I mean, even if you wanted to contact a Kirk Cousins or somebody that says, hey, we're building around, our quarterback. This is what we're doing. That's where I feel New England should go. New England should go with Marvin Harrison Jr. at number 3. Don't look at a quarterback. There's no reason to look at a quarterback. Go with a playmaker. Get you a playmaker. Upgrade your receiving core, and the quarterback will come. Don't buy in on the Mac Jones stuff. If you have to release Mac, release him. I think Mac Jones would be a nice, maybe backup quarterback. So I potentially see that the New England Patriots could go wide receiver, and I fully hope that they do go for a wide receiver. Get you that playmaker. You're going to have quarterbacks in and out of the draft every single year. And I feel that some of the better quarterbacks in this draft are not going to go till later on in the draft. We've talked Spencer Rattler. You've got potentials there where I think you're going to get the same, if not better, quality in quarterback when it comes to some of these guys. But definitely you can go get you a Marvin Harrison Jr., get you a playmaker, use some of the free agent. I believe they're one of the teams that has some really good cap space. They can go get a running back. They can go get another running back. They can go get some offensive line help. They can build around any type of quarterback they want to bring in the offseason. So even if it's a rookie that they draft, Spencer Rattler or somebody like that, I think right now that coaching staff and that front office needs to concentrate on bringing in a playmaker. So that's my thoughts on the number 3 pick over for the New England Patriots. Tim Gonzalez here, maybe to the Giants. Are you talking Russell Wilson to the Giants? Potentially. They're going to have to move on from Daniel Jones. That's a possibility. They could move on from Daniel Jones, just cut him, basically just pay Russ, a minimal contract to go play in New York. But again, with the receiving core that the Giants have, they would have to probably go get a receiving core there. They may go get a Malik Neighbors possibly to pair up. But I like Jalen Hyatt there in New York. He's a really good potential downfield guy, really explosive guy. But I think that if you look at both situations, man, it's hard to say. Neither one are great spots. But I think with New England, it would probably fit Russ a little bit better, knowing that he has a top receiver in Harrison Jr. if they go that route. And again, with the Cardinals there looming, I don't think Malik Neighbors makes it past 4. So I think Russ in New York may work, but I think the potential for him maybe going to New England is a little bit better. You said Saquon is headed to the Texans. Yeah, that's got a lot of steam going in front of it with Saquon Barkley heading to Houston. Houston has a lot of cap space. Then you saw what they did this season. We're hoping that C.J. Stroud doesn't hit the sophomore wall. He had a brilliant, rookie season. Now we're going to see some defensive coordinators able to scheme against him. Hopefully the Texans coaching staff can help him keep the momentum going. But definitely adding a Saquon Barkley, wow, that gives Houston the running back they really need. That gives them an explosive back. Houston's they're on point to make some noise. They made noise this year. They're on point to make some huge noise in next season for the NFL if CJ Stroud can continue his tear like he did this past season. You were talking CJ Stroud was putting up MVP numbers for a while there, and he was being considered as far as the MVP talk. He was in there. He was in the MVP talk. I don't really care what anybody says. I had him in the MVP talk last year as a rookie. So it goes to prove that, they're doing good things down in Houston. The other thing too with Houston is, you can build on that defense, and that's something that I know DeMeco Ryans wants to do. They've got a good receiving core. I love the receiving core. They just reassigned Dalton Schultz too. But it was $31 million. So they're setting up really nice in Houston, going after a Saquon. If that is true to be linked and he is headed to Houston, we'll find out here probably really soon, as I believe they can start talking to free agents here pretty soon. If not today, I think it's pretty soon they'll be able to talk to free agents. They really can't sign him, in that window, but kind of get that guarantee that they would get him there. That would be huge for Houston. Definitely huge. And there's a lot of great free agents this year. So Houston has good cap space. They can do whatever they need. But going back, that's New England for me. New England at number 3. Definitely go with the wide receiver. Get you an explosive wide receiver. Don't overthink this. Don't think that because you see 2 quarterbacks go right away that you have to panic. Spurs fans talked about panic at the beginning of the show. Don't panic. Go get you a wide receiver at number 3. That would make life easier for the Patriots. Let's be honest. You're not Super Bowl contenders next year. You're not you could possibly be playoff contenders if you go and get the right quarterback for New England, which again, Russell Wilson's out there. I don't think Kirk Cousins, he's going to be a Falcon, I believe. I think Kirk is all but sealed to go to Atlanta. So go on and get your Russell Wilson. Maybe kick the tires on a Daniel Jones. Anybody's better than Mac Jones at this time. Tim Gonzalez, CJ Barkley, a great deal. Yeah, it'd be a great duo. Another person to look out for is Derrick Henry in the offseason. A lot of people have him maybe possibly tied to the Dallas Cowboys. I think if Dallas had Derrick Henry last year, we'd be singing a different tune when it came to the Cowboys. They needed that running back, that workhorse back that Derrick Henry would bring if he was a Cowboy. He had a star in the helmet. I really think that Derrick Henry would have made the Cowboys a lot better last season. And I think if they were able to go in the offseason this year, that they definitely would be considered a lot better team than they were last year. I know Dak put up number 2 in the MVP votes, put up the statistics, but it's all about winning time, and Dak hasn't done much of that. But then again, I don't want to get into that whole talk about Dak and winning time because it's hard to say if it's Dak's fault or if it's Mike McCarthy's fault. Hey, we have swept the leagues, man. It's only going to be an hour show today. It was just me today on the show. So until we sweep the league again next time, again, Alamo City Podcast Network. Go to YouTube, subscribe to Alamo City Podcast Network. You can find us there. You can find Mike Jimenez and Joe in the mornings, 10:15 to 11:30. The Alamo City Sportscast in the mornings. You also have Brandon Medina, the Generation Duo podcast. That's funny. That's great. I love listening to that. And you have us as well, Sweep the League here. So for everybody else, for Sweep the League, for Coach Gio, for Derek Irvin, who will be back on Friday, this is Rudy Campos. Until we sweep the league again next time, we'll see you there, knuckleheads.